Binu, great to have you with us. We met, a couple of years ago at a conference, and
that's right.
Been in touch ever since. And we thought that, we had such a good affinity from a background and experience point of view that it'd be a great idea to have a chat and capture it, record it, and share it with other people, because it's, there's some important stuff we've been discussing that seems to be the way we need to try and push thinking around leadership. That's the reason why we're here. Hopefully that's going to be interesting and valuable to the people that might end up watching this. So with that in mind, mate, I'm going to start asking you some questions. Is that all right?
Perfectly good. Go for it. I think we also touched upon a few ideas and thoughts on what you're doing, great work that you're doing in your space, and how so much resonates with people like us as well. It's definitely a resonance which we found and probably stayed connected. So happy to engage in a dialogue, and happy to talk to you about it.
Brilliant. Thank you, mate. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege to be here having this chat with you. So, I mean, I now know that you've been in the industry for 27 years, and in that time, a bit like myself, you've moved from the front line, being at Gemba for the lean people listening, to the balcony, right, looking down, and mostly in different leadership roles. So, I mean, how do you feel now? Where are you at?
It's an interesting perspective that if you want to take the balcony moment of your career, so to speak. But yes, it's if there is one thing that I've learned deeply, is that you're never truly prepared. You're no matter how high you climb, how diverse do you engage, the goalpost of understanding people dynamics are always moving. The real challenge, though, David, isn't just making decisions. It's understanding the emotional wake that decision leaves behind. So it's the outcome. If you articulate a purpose, not just using corporate jargon, but really go beyond that on your team terms rather than their terms, you lose them otherwise, right? A leader's real job in that context is to act as a bridge, balancing the cold requirement of business. I call it cold requirement with a little bit of lack of heart, if I may, with warm human needs, that the needs of your team. So we talk a lot about two major things which I strongly believe in, is servant leadership and authenticity. The magic is not in the definitions. It's about the execution of the balance. We call it balcony and dance, but the value is in the and. Similarly here, between being a servant leader and how to stay authentic every single day, that's an execution challenge. So that's how I would prioritize that one piece of reflection.
That's brilliant, mate. Well, you said, and again, I'm thinking of a friend of ours called Carlos de Castro, who we heard talk about the Muppets in the balcony. It's a great analogy. But you've just said that the balcony and the dance, but the magic is in the and.
And, yeah.
That's brilliant. What a great phrase. Unpack that a bit for me. What have we got to do to understand what it means to bridge from a hierarchical placement as a leader with responsibilities under that title to creating the conditions, the environment in which the people doing the dance can dance their best dance?
Oh, absolutely. I think the value and can be paraphrased technologically into the synergy of switching, right? So I think the idea, we talk about lean, we talk about any culture transformation or anything, it's fundamental. When do you go to the Gamba and when do you stay up top in 30,000 feet? The question is, how do you switch between that? And the and is so important. If you get too much involved into one, you lose the other perspective. Yeah. Same thing, if you leave too much in ivory tower, you lose the ground perspective. Same thing. So it's a switching.
This is, and again, for me, it talks to how your brain processes the world, how it can map things, and that happens because of real experience. And if our experience is judging the outcomes from a spreadsheet versus watching the dance versus going down there and seeing what it takes to do the dance yourself, this is when we talk about going to Gemba, right? Being at the place where it happens, going to the front line, and leaders not just showing that they support, but actually demonstrating that they are engaged by getting involved, and also learning for themselves from that exposure on the front line, not just thinking it can be done at a distance. And this is, you know, if we don't shift those beliefs, we don't get the kind of behaviors that help everyone move forward, do we? And
very well said. I think the shifting of behaviors, when you see it in a triangle versus seeing it in a round table, that's the difference. You are in equal stakeholder in that round table, not in the triangle of hierarchy.
Yeah. And that's the difference. It's belonging, it's being part of something, it's having a purpose that drives your actions, that send the signals. It's not about posters on the wall or policy. What brains respond to is the signals they get from other people. And if you're a leader, the signals you send are in the fact that you're either there or not. It's the same as being a parent for a child, right? You have to let the child know they're loved. You have to be there to let an employee know they're valued.
That's authenticity for you, man.
Yeah, absolutely is. And we talk about authentic leadership and servant leadership and these things, and I don't actually think sometimes we quite know what that means in practice, do we? Oh yeah, brilliant, mate. So listen, you've given all of that we've just said, and the fact that you've held global roles, how, and there's a big thing, so much focus on culture change and transformation, whether it's merger and acquisition or anything else, but you know, and we talk about culture change inside business, but we also talk about cultural influence in different geographies and regions, right? So how do you see the response to culture change and transformation and the things we try and do in business? How does that shift between geographies? Like, do you see differences in people and different leadership styles based on global location?
Yeah. When you lead or live across geographies, you see that perspective, right? You realize that though the goals are very universal, the feeling of transformation is very local. You know? So global word comes into my mind, which is globally relevant and locally valued, right? The shift usually happens at the intersection, in my mind, on three major things. And let me put that in perspective on those three. So if you think about horizon thinking, you think about value trap, and you talk about the control dial, if I may.
Yeah.
Let me try and give a take on explaining what I mean by that. The horizontal thinking is, in some cultures, good is defined by here and now, the quarterly results, the monthly piece. Whereas in other areas, and I'm not talking about geographical cultures or any other culture, but it's more about how people perceive and adapt. It's about 10-year legacy in some other context or some other place. Transformation, in my mind, only sticks when you align your belief in what good looks like with the timeline that people who are involved in doing that work. So what's your horizon thinking, and how is it relevant to that set of people, to that set of geography, is one element of transformation and culture change that sticks with people. The second element I mentioned is the value trap, right? This is most critical shift, right? So are we developing people for tomorrow, or are we just extracting value from them for today? Pretty much closer to the horizon piece, but what value are we prioritizing? I've always operated with a very simple truth. And again, I keep bringing back authenticity because I truly believe in that. A happy team member is a productive asset. If you scale that feeling to a team or a whole business or a group, you create a chain reaction. And often say happy team members or happy people create a happy customer. We talk words, customer engagement stuff, but it is really happy customer towards you, towards your company, your people, your brand. And if you do that, you have a happy customer, then its sustainable growth is a byproduct of it.
Yeah.
Right? You will get business. So happy people create happy customers. Happy customers bring the sustained business. It's simple as that. It's not other way around. The forward motion is what high performance culture is always. That's how it actually feels like. And the final piece I mentioned about control dial, I think it was also one of the articles that you sent out some time back, very close to my heart. The fear and structure, the transformation never sticks, or it dies in the grip of micromanagement. Regardless of geography, regardless of culture, the most successful shifts occurs when leadership moves that dial away from command and control towards empowerment and trust. Like we said about early, it's very difficult to do and execute, but so powerful when you empower them and make them valuable and speak about the round table, make them feel you're part of the table round, not looking up or down. So if we summarize that based on the horizon-based value creation, the value trap of how do you create people and empower people, these three things are pretty critical in how we make culture shift sustainable and how transformations can stick.
Yeah, no, thank you, mate. That's fantastic. I mean, just, yeah, there's so many things going off in my head and connections I make into all of my experience across, the last 35, 40 years it's been now in total. But it's, the long-term thinking bit is so crucial. I mean, we find that, and I know Toyota's put on a pedestal and, hailed as the exemplar of a high-performance culture, and it's got its critics, especially through the lean sort of fraternity. But people talk about true lean and there's arguments all around it. But the fact is, there is a statement at the front end of the 14 points Leica produced, which is about long-term thinking, even at the expense of short-term financial gain. We've got to put our focus on profit to one side to get the people bit right. And that's what you said next, right? You said it's the other way around. Those were your words, I think. And that's rings so strongly for me, because if we know, with all the evidence we've got from everywhere, if you put the people first and you get that bit right, the processing, the systems improve, the problem solving improves, the collaboration goes up, the performance goes up, and therefore profits improve. But it's done sustainably. It becomes the culture. If you drive people by targets to hit profit margins, outcomes, EBITDA, double digit, this, that, the other, Q1, Q3, H1, H2, all this language, it's just pressure all the time, and brains don't respond very well to pressure. We end up therefore trying to increase governance and control, and the more we try and impose control, getting into self-determination theory and all that stuff, the least people respond well to it, and therefore trust reduces. So and I think there's something in my head that connects to what you just said, that the culture is only going to become a high performance culture if we've got high levels of trust. And we know neurologically that's high levels of oxytocin, lower levels of cortisol. And everything we do in business drives us to do it the wrong way around. So when you said it's the other way around, like fireworks went off in my head. I was like, that's it. That's the thing. It's
I'm not saying by any stretch that we don't want oil to keep running the flames for you. You need that every month. You need that every quarter. That's how you pay. That's how you run the business. However, we are talking about not performing, but we are talking about transforming. There's difference. When transformation is needed, the value of change, the value of stickiness can only come at the transform level. You can transform people, but then they'll fall back to the same perform level. This is what we call it standards. You create a standard, curate an improvement, and you go to the next standard. If you don't create sustainable change in standards, what happens?
Yeah,
it will come back, or something else will break.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when you've given people those guardrails to bowl in, and that standard, then they know their areas of control. That helps build that confidence in self, and therefore people have better relations, the trust builds up, and there's this whole dynamic of virtuous improvement rather than, you know, the vicious cycle that drives us to the bottom. Listen, we're talking about pressure right now,
Right.
and the way we, you know, fiscal outcome targets, quite often arbitrarily chosen, put pressure on everybody. And we now know pressure equals stress, stress equals chronic cortisol, cortisol is bad for us in a multitude of different ways, not only because it damages BDNF, which is the substance we need to adapt. So just by stressing people out, we stop the way they can respond positively to change. But quite, I mean, I think I've seen, it's a funny psychological thing. When people are under pressure, they quite often just sort of like double down on what they already think, right? And if it's extreme, like broken normality, then you can get different personality types to flip to the other end of the scale temporarily to cope and then come back again. But from an organizational point of view, when the pressure's on, you know, geopolitical situations, the things that we've been experiencing in the last few years, unfortunately, why do you think people so often turn inwards rather than move forwards? What's going on there from your experience?
Yeah, this is something that's not an experience. You learn it in every phase of life, right? You think about anything, whether it's at home with your child, whether it is at work or with his friends. You close down, you shut down when you are under pressure. You want people to be in the band where they are neither over pushed nor under pushed. You're performing and transforming only at that level. So it's a natural reflex in my mind, but it's a very dangerous one. When organizations feel the heat, they often turn inwards because modern business construct forces us to live and die by, to your point earlier, monthly, quarter. However, again, going back to the purpose is to create intrinsic value, right? Purpose is, and again, as I said, you create that value and you will automatically see the performance level at a different stage. So it's an outcome, it's a byproduct, but we try to look at it from to think about standard accounting. Yeah, we treat a lot of things like overhead and liability or asset, right? Which is very right. But people, knowledge, and memory are assets.
Yeah, that's exactly where my head was going. When you said about intrinsic value, it from a standard. I mean, I've had this argument for a long time. Not many people want to engage with it, but it's absolutely right with what you're saying. We treat the wage bill as an overhead, don't we? It's a liability. It's something to be reduced. It's a cost, so it's got to be reduced, and reducing it is good. But that means cutting heads, and cutting heads means losing knowledge and tacit intuitive knowledge that takes years to build up in a brain. So, you know, it's not a comfortable tension, is it? If you reduce the wage bill, you're reducing knowledge, aren't you? And that's got to be risky, like you just said.
Yeah. No, this is where the common dilemmas comes in, where purpose and transparency trumps, and they become our strongest tool. You have a vision, you have a direction, you have create that. Again, part of that authenticity is also creating that level of transparency, right? Instead of matching resource to supply and demand, a leader normally, whoever I valued and greatly followed, communicate that purpose that allows everyone to march in that direction, even if the market shifts left or right. But if they are not connected to that, that's when deviations happen in my mind. You, as a human, and we all are, right? I have been in sports, professional sports player, and I deeply learned during that phase of my life that when high performing teams are under pressure, what do? They don't just keep working harder individually. I think about that football game where you have a goal to hit 5 goals as a forwarder, or defend 10 goals as a defender. But if the collective value delivered is the team loses, what's the point? So what they do, they normally under pressure, every successful sports team pause, reflect, visualize that success together, and maybe adapt a little bit. They move away from individual survival towards a collective outcome. And why is it needed? Because it's a team sport. Same thing with companies. It's a team game, right? You have to stop seeing people as individuals which have their own goals, but start seeing them as one engine capable of driving you out of the storm. And if the purpose is right, your shift will happen.
Yeah, because people go towards something that they've decided their brain's been able to determine is safe and good for them in their future. And therefore, everything gravitates towards that. If you've got purposes in different directions, people are pulling in different directions, right? So it's
Absolutely. You can be an individual hero, but in a team sport, your purpose is the cup, not the game fees.
Yeah, and you see it. So, and again, for me, blame is a big thing that creeps up in everything I do, and why. Our coping strategies, our psychological response is to blame and project blame away from ourselves onto others. It's part of our defense mechanisms. And you see it in football and sports all the time, don't you? It's the goalie let 4 goals in. Yeah, but what was the defenders doing? And therefore, why were the strikers losing it up the other end? They should have been pressing high. I wouldn't know any of this terminology if it wasn't that my daughter plays football out in America at the moment. But I've never been a big football knowledge guy. But I kind of get it, and I've seen it, and it's with every sport. It's whether it's chess or whether it's badminton, and you are an individual. You've still got your coach. You've still got the people behind you. There's always a team, one way or another. Even if you're a very self-directed person, don't need a coach as a golfer, your family still supports you traveling around the world. There's always something there that means it's about humans and relations, isn't there? Incredible. So I think, moving on and looking back, we're in this beautifully fortunate position to have been, being in our 50s and looking back at life and a long career over decades. But what and you said it's about, I don't think you use these words, but it's the corporate machine. It's the default approach in industry that this is how you have to be as a leader. This is what you have to do. End of quarter, end of month, end of year, type language. What beliefs? Because obviously from our perspective, BTFA beliefs are the origin, the wiring pattern.
Absolutely.
We feel because of the way our brain works, and we act in relation to those feelings and thoughts. So it really comes back down to root cause being, what do you believe? So with that context and the fact that we have had long careers, and the fact you're still talking about this in terms of people, than profit and balance sheets. What beliefs have helped you stay human inside these systems that sometimes aren't quite so human?
No, that's it connects back to what we earlier said. It's not an easy, but it's a constant battle. Systems are naturally designed to be binary, black or white, profit or loss, and it's okay, but humans who are making those binary click live in gray.
Yeah.
Right? So it's basically core beliefs and their value. We talk about the iceberg. What is beneath the iceberg is more relevant and bigger than the tip of the iceberg, which is what we normally see, which is the outcome. And there, few things have always grounded me. If I ever get into that, and if I'm going through my hindsight or reflection, as they call it, people are the way here. You contextualize it. The people are the why, not the how. In many systems, people are seen as a means to an end. But I try to flip it. I believe business results are simply an evidence of a healthy, supported, and inspired group of humans. Your purpose of an enterprise is to build a career, a society with that people. And business is a means to do it. Companies are a means to do it. If you focus on the people, numbers usually take care of themselves. Even if that is dynamic, even if that is flipping, even if there is an external market dynamics, they adapt if they are with you. Second, empathy. and I deeply ground myself in this space, is empathy is a strategic strength, not a weakness. And I don't want to articulate. One great leader told me once, you don't need to be something to be enforcing or driving things hard. You can still have that empathy. And there's a common misconception that being human makes you soft. I found it opposite.
Yeah,
it's true. When you lead with empathy, you build a level of resilience, a loyalty that no system or process can replicate. They work for people, work for people. People work for groups. People work for outcome and purpose, not the brand alone. It's that ultimate competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Right. And the final piece is the power of what I call it pause. Systems want you to react instantly, to predict and control based on latest data, react quickly, run like a headless chicken sometimes, reacting to something immediately that is popping out. But staying human means taking a beat to ask, how will this decision actually feel to that person whom we are asking something? Or being on the other side of the screen, what does it mean? Ultimately, I have stayed human by remembering that titles are just temporary, loan. The legacies you leave isn't the spreadsheet you finished, isn't the results that you achieved. It's how you made people feel while you were doing. You and me have been surrounded with people. Who do you remember?
Yeah.
Who do you want to work with? Who do you want to go? If you put 100% of our time ratio, a committed person will do that, deliver 100%. But an engaged and loyal person will deliver 120%.
I guess we've all probably got those people in our past, haven't we? Straight away, as soon as you said that, I thought of Eric and Oliver. 25 years apart in my career, but Eric had my back, Oliver had my back.
There you go.
All the other bosses in between were the ones that made me feel bad for not hitting the targets. So as soon as you say how people make you feel, the two positive ones popped out. Now, we know this stuff. We've all experienced it. And yet, do we try and become that person that makes everybody else feel good? Knowing that when I would have done anything to deliver for Eric and for Ollie. You know, I mean, I had lunch with Ollie last Wednesday because we stayed friends after working together. But, you know, yeah, you would do so much more. That intrinsic motivation, that discretionary effort, that I'll just hang back, even though I've got to get the kids from school, I'll arrange, you know, or I'll stay back and make sure I see night shift to make sure they're okay and got the right message as well. And, you know, and it goes back to what you were saying about empathy gives you strength. You know, are you dealing with the visible bit, the KPIs, or are you worried about the relationships, whether there is an argument on night shift and you're going to go back and sort it out as a supervisor or a manager?
I've been in service long, at the services industry, and servant leadership is what we talked about. You take that example within your company, you take that example with people who work with customers, you take that example to the shops that you go, everywhere. Where do you go back to? Who do you call? Not the product alone, but the people you interacted with. The one line of empathy that a sales representative said, or a barber told you while cutting the hair, and you keep going back to the same place. Why? It's exactly the same.
Exactly.
Why do I keep going back to the same place even if there is, you know, $2 cheaper somewhere else? Because happy customers.
Yeah. I have a good chat with the security guard at Tesco's every evening when I go down there. You know,
experiences. Indeed.
Yeah. See, and again, I know we've got the famous sayings around us. I think, is it Maya Angelou? She said it, didn't she? People won't remember what you did or what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. So you don't remember the detail, you remember the emotional response you had towards somebody. And we've got that wisdom, and we don't operationalize it. You know, and I think that's what neuroscience, I mean, just picking back up on my side of things again, does. It allows us, everyone, to understand this is the cause and effect. which is the output to the human brain, how a human brain is designed to respond, and the output you will get if you get the right triggers. And I think a lot of what we do in business right now triggers the stress, the cortisol levels, not the oxytocin levels to raise. So, I mean, given that, I mean, that's, I think that sounds all very profoundly wise on the back end of a lot of experience. So if you were going to start again tomorrow, because I mean, we've had a number of people, same age as me and a bit older, go through what we do. And they've said, oh, why didn't we know this at the beginning of our career? Why didn't I know this in university? Why isn't this standard knowledge? And the answer is, of course, because we've only really had the massive advances in neuroscience in the last 15 years. And you know, there's only a few people out there trying to make them come to life as a practical way of doing things differently. But so it's all very early days, but the wisdom's always been there. It's just we've got a new language to be able to explain it with science now. But all of that aside, if you were to start again tomorrow, I mean, given and what you've seen, what that doesn't work, you know, quite often this is not about doing more, having more processes and procedures. It's about stopping what we do that is already damaging things. But what if you had this beautiful utopian white canvas, you know, that you could start again? You're starting again tomorrow. What will you insist is got to be in place from day one? What's going to make the difference?
Yeah, that's a loaded and wisdom-based question, right? Let's if we are starting again tomorrow, I think fundamentally what we said so far is I won't reach out to that strategy deck or the financial spreadsheet first. I would insist on 3 non-negotiable building blocks being in place from day one. Without these, your transformation will stall before it can start. Right? So you work with those 3: extreme transparency, trust as a baseline, not as a reward, and authentic purpose. Maybe I'm repeating this a couple of times, but extreme transparency, I would insist on a culture where the why is as public as the what. People cannot march in the same direction if they are kept in dark about where the horizon is, or if it is limited to a small subset of siloed groups. That builds to the second point, which I said, trust as a baseline, not as a reward. Most systems make you earn trust over years. If I would flip that, I would start with trust as a default setting. It's the key to, we call it Stephen Covey or Franklin Covey, I don't remember. We had a session with one of our leadership group. It said speed of trust. It's the only way to move at speed required for global transformations. And the final piece is authentic purpose. I would ensure we articulate a purpose that resonates on their terms. On their terms, everybody speaking the same language, not just corporate ones. Knowing what business needs and knowing what people need are 2 different things. Let's accept and realize it. From day one, if you want to make sure you explain that needs in their terms, and the opportunity for me as a leader would be to bridge that gap.
To the corp, from the individual understanding to the corporate.
To the business understanding and needs. Both are relevant, but often we keep priority to the business relevance, not just the vehicle which delivers that. Ultimately, I would insist a culture where we acknowledge, again, a happy worker is a productive worker. Period. If you get the human feeling, this feeling of success from day one, the business growth is inevitable, my friend.
Yeah.
It's a byproduct.
And again, it's so many different ways that we have got these different maps in our heads from our own experience. But I mean, you said you might be repeating things, but I think, you know, this authentic approach to understanding what it means to be human and working with it rather than against it, which we tend to do in our systems, it really does bear repeating. But it's the other thing that popped into my head was about the self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't know where I picked it up, and I've looked it up since, and I can't quite find it again, but the way I now say it, because that's just the way we morph things over time. But it's a lovely little thing that says, if I assume you're an idiot, right, then I'm going to treat you in a way that will trigger your response so that your behaviors confirm me in my assumption, but the same thing is about, it happens in the positive. If I assume the best of everybody, and therefore, like you said, trust them from Covey. I had not heard Covey say about the speed of trust, but that's
there's a book
as well.
There's a book from Stephen Covey, if I remember right, Speed of Trust.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I've missed that one somehow, but but it links into this whole principle. It's it's how do we what's the assumptions we're working on about others? And then that comes into our own levels of confidence, doesn't it? Our own self-concept. If we've got a high self-concept and we're comfortable in ourselves, there's no threat if we give other people a chance to develop. So that's when you've got this default assumption that everybody comes to work to do a good job. And if you have got that assumption, and you can feel it here when you're just talking about it, that other people are going to pick up on that. And if they know that you trust them, that you assume the best of them, that those subtle cues that you get in pitch and tone and micro expressions in body language, in facial movements, that's what that other brain's responding positively to, right? So it all makes sense neurologically as well, everything you just said. And again, talking about, extreme transparency. Where are we going? Well, if we don't know exactly where we're going, then let's have that conversation, not pretend and put a mask on it all, because people will pick up on that as well. So everything you've just said there makes so much sense. It really does. But yeah, that's fantastic, mate. I know we're probably coming up on time here because we didn't want it to go on forever. You want to get a few cool bits out, but I don't even know what to say. There's so many things there that we could link back through to assumptions about Q1, end of month targets, how that drives. If we're stressed as an individual, as a leader, are we going to be able to react to people in that authentic way? And so it becomes about every brain at every level being in the right space, being a great space. My friend Oliver, a different Oliver Randall, he says, if people are going to do great things, they've got to be in great spaces, but internally in themselves. So yeah, I think it's brilliant. I mean, how do you want to wrap this up, mate? What's final comments from your side? Because I'm rambling a lot here because you've inspired me.
I do acknowledge, and I think we talked about resonance when we met. This is one resonance that we have together in what you do and how you drive. Beautiful picture of your BFTA versus PDCA, how that cycle becomes infinite. So I really connect to that, and every post that you do makes complete sense with that context in mind. It's all about managing predictive brains under stress, control for immediate marching orders. Yes, in a defense armed forces, you're saying, no, follow the orders, march your way. Well, that's execution. But when you talk about transformation, that's not execution. That's transformation, taking the world we live to a better place with the people. Right. Yeah. So that's focus on sustainable future, not something that you need to keep work, because there is a price you pay if you keep repeating the same mistake and keep fixing the system versus taking it to the next levels, because you don't want to step down. So step ladder, it's not a slippery slope. Let me pause at that.
Brilliant. Fantastic, mate. That is fantastic. I mean, there's so many good nuggets in there that I'm already thinking now, I'm going to clip this bit out and I'm going to clip that bit out and I'm going to share that before we share the whole thing. But final point from my side, just because of what you said about BTFA, and I think what we've seen is that neuroscience allows us to operationalize what we've you all right?
Yeah, that's okay. He just walked in.
Yeah. So what you just said makes me think of is the fact that the PDCA BTFA cycles sitting together, and the fact that they converge over action is how people act that we actually need to change, isn't it? Behaviors at work to get them to be doing anything differently, not get people to do anything differently. And we've been able to operationalize the PDCA, continuous improvement, logic, tools, techniques, methods, you know, everything. That's all done. Like you said, we set a standard, we work to the standard. But people are emotional, they're not logical. And unless we get those two things in balance, I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. Everything
not at all.
Point of view works, right? Because we wouldn't have houses and planes and trains and cars and electric cars now, you know, if it wasn't for the fact that project managing things into existence doesn't work to some extent. But I think equally, we're also seeing mass disengagement levels being reported by Gallup globally. We're also seeing, you know, constant reports over decades of change and transformation programs failing. And when we look behind the curtain, it's always the people piece that's mentioned. So unless we get this, if we can operationalize with BTFA the respect for people bit, the you know, if you take the Toyota two pillars, you've got the continuous improvement, which PDCA naturally sits under. We've got respect for people. There hasn't been anything that naturally sits under that. And I think we can put BTFA under that now, use neuroscience to understand what it actually means to be respectful in our conduct towards ourselves and each other, and therefore get that relationship bit right, which enhances and makes those tools and techniques work more effectively and efficiently. And I think that's where we're at in history now, where we haven't been there before. So yeah, everything you said absolutely lines up to that and my way of thinking. And I thank you immensely, sir, for joining me and spending some time with me to talk.
It is always a pleasure to talk to you, David.
I think this is going to be a very valuable resource for people out there. So yeah, it's good of you to share your knowledge and your wisdom. Thanks so much, mate.
Thank you so much.
No problem at all. Brilliant. Okay, I'll see you again soon. Cheers.
Thank you. See you soon as well. Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.